The email arrived at 9:47 on a Wednesday morning. I remember the exact time because I was standing in my kitchen in Evanston, Illinois, wiping oatmeal off the counter while my 7-year-old, Lily, yelled that she couldn't find her other sneaker. The chaos of school mornings, backpacks, permission slips, the dog barking at the mailman was so painfully ordinary that when I glanced at my phone and saw the subject line, my brain literally refused to process it. Congratulations, you're our $18.7 million winner. I almost swiped it away. Some spam thing, I thought. Probably one of those "you've won a free cruise" scams my mom kept falling for. But my thumb hovered, and then I opened it. The next few minutes exist in my memory as fragments, like a film reel that got damaged and only certain frames survived. I remember sitting down on the floor, not because I planned to, but because my legs stopped working. I remember the dog licking my face and me not even pushing him away. I remember Lily running past me, fully dressed now, shouting, "Mom, the bus, the bus." I drove her to school that morning. I have no memory of the drive. When I got back home, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and read the email 17 times. Then I logged into my lottery account, the one I'd created on a whim 3 weeks earlier when my sister talked me into buying a ticket, just for fun. We'd laughed about it over wine. Imagined what we'd do. Private island? Early retirement? Matching Teslas? I never actually thought I'd win. But there it was. In black and white. My numbers. All of them. $18.7 million. After taxes, maybe $11 or $12 million. Still more money than I'd ever see in a lifetime of working my marketing job. More money than my parents had earned combined in their entire lives. More money than... My phone rang. David. I stared at his name on the screen. My husband of 9 years. Father of my child. The man who, just last night, had fallen asleep on the couch during our Netflix show, and I'd covered him with a blanket because I still thought that was sweet. "Hey," I answered, my voice sounding foreign.
"Hey.
"I forgot my gym bag. Can you drop it at the office?" Just like that. Gym bag. Office. Normal Wednesday request. "Sure," I said. "You okay? You sound weird." I looked at the email again. Still there. Still real. "I'm fine. Just tired." "Okay. Love you." "Love you too." I hung up and sat in silence for a long time. The thing about winning unimaginable money is that there's no manual. No one tells you what the first hour is supposed to look like. Should I call someone? Scream? Cry? Open a bottle of champagne at 10 a.m.? I did none of those things. Instead, I called my sister, Megan.
"What?" Her voice was groggy.
She worked nights as a nurse. "I won the lottery."
Silence.
"Megan, I'm too tired for pranks." "I'm not pranking. I won. $18.7 million. More silence. Then a sound I'd never heard from my sister before, a kind of strangled gasp laugh hybrid. "You're serious?" "I'm serious." "Holy shit." "Yeah. Why shit." We stayed on the phone for an hour.
She cried.
I didn't, not yet. I was still in some kind of shock bubble where nothing felt real. She told me to call a financial advisor, a lawyer, to not tell anyone else yet,
to breathe.
I wrote notes on a pad of paper while she talked. Financial advisor, lawyer,
breathe.
At noon, I drove David's gym bag to his office downtown. The whole way, I kept glancing at myself in the rearview mirror, expecting to look different. But I looked the same. Same tired eyes. Same messy ponytail. Same woman who'd been juggling marriage and motherhood and a mediocre career for nearly a decade. The woman who was now worth $18 million.
David met me in the lobby.
He looked rushed, distracted, his usual workday face. He kissed me quickly, thanked me for the bag, and said he'd be late again tonight. Big project.
Deadline.
I nodded like I always did.
Sure.
I'll make dinner for Lily and me. Perfect. You're the best. He was already walking away. That night, after Lily was asleep, I sat on the back porch with a glass of wine and stared at the stars. Our house wasn't fancy. A 3-bedroom colonial in a decent neighborhood, but with a leaky roof and a mortgage we were barely keeping up with. David's salary as an architect was good, mine was okay, but together we were comfortable. Not rich, just comfortable. We'd been fighting more lately. Nothing dramatic, just the slow erosion that happens when two people stop really seeing each other. He worked late. I handled the house, the kid, the mental load. We had sex once a week, usually on Saturday nights, like it was scheduled maintenance. I told myself that was normal. That marriage after a decade was supposed to feel like this. Flat. Functional.
Fine.
I thought about the money, about what it could mean for us. Pay off the mortgage. Fix the roof. College funds. Maybe a vacation home somewhere. David always talked about wanting a place in Michigan near the lake. I imagined telling him. The look on his face. The way he'd pick me up and spin me around like he used to when we were younger. I smiled in the dark. I had no idea that in less than 72 hours, that smile would be gone forever. Thursday passed in a blur of phone calls and paperwork. The Lottery Commission confirmed everything. A financial advisor was recommended. A lawyer, just to handle the logistics, Megan insisted, was contacted. I moved through it all like an actress playing a role. This isn't my life, I kept thinking. This is a movie about someone else. David noticed I was distracted at dinner Thursday night. You okay? He asked, passing the salad.
Yeah.
Just tired. You said that yesterday. Parent-teacher conference tomorrow. I deflected. I'm nervous. He nodded, accepting the lie. Or maybe not accepting, just not caring enough to push. Friday morning, I dropped Lily at school and drove to meet the lawyer Megan had recommended. His name was Marcus Chen, and his office was in a high-rise downtown with a view of the lake. He was young, sharp, professional. He explained things clearly.
Trusts.
Taxes. Anonymity options. I took notes. Halfway through, my phone buzzed. David. I ignored it. Then it buzzed again. And again. Sorry. I muttered to Marcus. I should. I picked up. Where are you? David's voice was strange.
Tight.
Controlled in a way that felt uncontrolled underneath. Meeting a friend for coffee. Why? We need to talk. Something in his voice made my stomach drop.
Now. Now.
I'm home. Come home. I'm in the city. It'll take 40 minutes. Then come now. He hung up. I apologized to Marcus, packed my things, and drove home with my heart hammering. All the worst possibilities ran through my head. Someone died. He got fired. Lily.
No.
Lily was at school. Safe. Then what? I walked into our house at 11:47 a.m. Friday morning. David was sitting at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd opened the email 2 days earlier. His hands were folded in front of him. His face was pale. Sit down, he said. I sat. He didn't touch me, didn't reach for my hand. I've been trying to figure out how to say this for months, he began. And I can't find a good way. So, I'm just going to say it. I waited. I want a divorce. The words didn't land at first. They hung in the air between us, weirdly abstract, like they belonged to someone else's life. What? I'm not happy, he continued.
His voice was flat.
Rehearsed. I haven't been happy for a long time. I've tried to make it work, but I can't. I'm done. I stared at him. Is this a joke?
No.
Is there someone else? He hesitated. Just a fraction of a second.
But I saw it.
David. Is there someone else? Yes. The word hit me like a physical blow. Actually felt my body rock backward.
Who?
That doesn't matter. It matters to me. He shook his head. It's over. That's what matters. I've already talked to a lawyer. I'm moving out this weekend. This weekend. 2 days.
He'd planned this.
Rehearsed this. Lied to my face for how long? Months, he said. Months of coming home late. Months of I love you before bed. Months of me covering him with blankets and making his coffee and believing we were fine. Something inside me cracked. But something else, something smaller and quieter, whispered in the back of my mind.
Tell him.
Tell him about the money. I opened my mouth. And then I looked at his face. Really looked. At the coldness in his eyes. The relief that was already creeping in now that he'd said the words. He wasn't sad.
He was free.
And in that moment, I made a decision I didn't know I was capable of. I closed my mouth. Okay, I said quietly. He blinked. Clearly hadn't expected that. Okay. If you're done, you're done. I won't beg you to stay. Something flickered across his face. Disappointment? Surprise? I couldn't read it. I'll sleep on the couch tonight, he said. I'll get my things tomorrow while you're at the grocery store. Of course. He knew my schedule. Knew exactly when I'd be gone. Fine. He stood up.
Paused.
Looked at me like he wanted to say something else.
He didn't.
He walked out of the kitchen. I sat there for a long time. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. The same refrigerator where Lily's art projects were held up by magnets. The same kitchen where we'd celebrated birthdays and anniversaries. I thought about the email. $18.7 million. I thought about his face when he said, I want a divorce. I thought about the woman, whoever she was. Young, probably.
Pretty.
Uncomplicated. And I thought about how David had just made the biggest mistake of his life without even knowing it. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus Chen, the lawyer. Following up on our meeting. Let's schedule next steps for the lottery funds whenever you're ready. I stared at the screen. Then I typed back. Actually, can we meet Monday? Something came up. My husband just filed for divorce. I hit send. And for the first time since Wednesday morning, I smiled. Not a happy smile. A knowing one. The weekend passed in a strange, hollow fog. David slept on the couch Friday night. I lay in our bed. My bed now, I guessed, staring at the ceiling and listening to the sounds of a man I didn't recognize anymore. He coughed once around 2 a.m. The old me would have gotten up to bring him water. The old me would have asked if he was okay. The new me didn't move. Saturday morning, I took Lily to her soccer game like nothing was wrong. I cheered from the sidelines. Bought her orange slices at halftime. Hugged her when her team lost. All while carrying this massive, ugly secret inside me. David was gone when we got back. So were half the clothes from our closet. His guitar. The stupid expensive watch I'd saved for months to buy him for our anniversary. He'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Taking some things now. We'll get the rest later. We'll figure out custody arrangements next week. I'm sorry it ended like this.
D.
I read it 3 times. I'm sorry it ended like this. Not, I'm sorry I destroyed our marriage. Not, I'm sorry I lied to you for months. Just sorry it ended. Like it was a TV show that got canceled. I crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. Lily wandered in, still in her soccer uniform. Where's Daddy? He's staying somewhere else for a while, baby. Why? I knelt down to her level. 7 years old. Big brown eyes that looked exactly like his. He and I need some time apart. But we both love you so much. That's not going to change. Her face crumpled. Then she did something that broke my heart. She nodded. Like she'd been expecting this. Like she'd felt the distance too. Okay, mommy. Okay, mommy. 7 years old. And she was already learning to absorb pain without making a scene. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat on the back porch again. Same spot as Wednesday. Same wine. Completely different world. I thought about the money. About Marcus Chen's email. About the fact that David had no idea. And I thought about the look on his face when he told me about the other woman. That tiny hesitation. That split second where he decided not to give me her name. He'd protected her. Even in that moment, he'd protected her from my anger, my pain, my potential scene. Something hardened inside me. Sunday was quieter. I took Lily to the park. Made pancakes. Let her stay up late watching movies. David texted once, "How is she?" And I responded with one word, "Fine." He didn't ask how I was. Monday morning, I dropped Lily at school and drove to Marcus Chen's office. He was waiting in the conference room with a folder and a concerned expression. "I was sorry to hear about your situation," he said carefully. "That's a lot to process alongside the other news." Process is an interesting word for it. He nodded like he understood. Probably saw this kind of thing all the time, Money bringing out the worst in people. Or, in this case, the worst happening right before the money arrived. Let's talk about protecting your assets, he said. The lottery winnings are yours. You bought the ticket, it's in your name. Illinois is not a community property state, but it is an equitable distribution state. Since the winnings came after he filed for divorce, there's an argument to be made that they're separate property. Argument. Your husband could contest it. Claim that because you were still married when you bought the ticket, he's entitled to a share. The timing is complicated. I leaned forward. He filed Friday. I bought the ticket 3 weeks ago, but he doesn't know. Marcus raised an eyebrow. He doesn't know you won?
No.
And you haven't told him?
No.
He studied me for a long moment. May I ask why? I thought about Saturday morning. The note on the counter. The way he'd packed his bags while I was at a soccer game. Too cowardly to face me. Because he doesn't deserve to know, I said quietly. Because he left me for another woman and thinks he can just walk away without consequences. Because I'm tired of being the one who gives and gives while he takes. Marcus nodded slowly. I understand. And legally, you're not obligated to tell him immediately. But if this goes to court, it will come out. Discovery is a bitch. How long do I have? Months, probably. Divorce cases move slowly unless both parties agree. Months. I could work with months. What do I do in the meantime? Marcus slid a document across the table. First, you set up a trust. The winnings go into the trust, not into your personal accounts. That creates separation. Second, you don't make any major purchases, no houses, no cars, nothing that could be considered marital assets. Third, you say absolutely nothing to your husband. Not a word. And the money just sits there?
For now.
We'll set up high-yield accounts, so it's working for you.
But yes.
You wait. I signed the papers. Felt the weight of millions of dollars transferring into something abstract and distant. When I left his office, the city looked different.
Sharper.
Like I was seeing it through new eyes. I drove home and spent the afternoon cleaning. It felt good to move, to scrub, to throw things away. I started in the kitchen and worked my way through the living room. By the time Lily came home, I'd filled 4 garbage bags with stuff we didn't need. David called that night. I want to talk about custody arrangements, he said. No hello. No how are you? Okay. I'm thinking every other weekend and Wednesday nights. You're thinking. That's standard. Standard for what? For fathers who abandon their families. Silence. I didn't abandon anyone. I'm still her father. You left on a Saturday while she was at soccer. You didn't even say goodbye. Another silence. Longer this time. I'll say goodbye next time.
Next time.
Like it was a scheduled appointment. I need to think about what's best for Lily, I said. Not what's convenient for you. She's my daughter too. Then act like it. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Not from sadness, from anger. Clean, hot anger that felt strangely good. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. David came by twice to get more of his things, always when I was at work. We communicated through texts, logistics only. Lily had her first Wednesday night visit and came back quiet, withdrawn. She didn't talk about it and I didn't push. I met with Marcus 3 more times. The trust was set up. The money was moved. I was officially worth more than I'd ever imagined. And no one knew. Not Megan. I'd sworn her to secrecy. Not my parents. Certainly not David. It felt like holding my breath underwater. Then, 3 weeks after he left, David called with a new request. I want to meet. Talk about the divorce in person. Why? Because we need to figure out the house. The finances. All of it. I thought about the money. About how close I was to telling him. About how good it would feel to watch his face change. But I remembered Marcus's warning. Say nothing.
Fine.
Where? Coffee shop. The one near your office. Thursday at 6. Fine. I hung up and sat in the dark for a long time. Thursday came fast. I dressed carefully, not for him, but for me. Dark jeans. Nice top.
Hair down.
Lipstick that made me feel powerful. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 coffees. He stood when he saw me, a reflex from our dating days.
Hey, he said.
Hey. I sat down.
Didn't touch the coffee.
He looked good. Of course he did. He always looked good. That was part of the problem. Easy confidence. Warm eyes. The kind of face that made people trust him instantly. I used to trust him instantly.
How are you? He asked.
How do you think? He nodded, accepting the hit. Fair enough. I know this is hard.
Do you?
Do you know what it's like to come home to an empty house every night? To explain to your 7-year-old why daddy doesn't live here anymore? To lie awake at 3 a.m. wondering where you went wrong? He flinched. I didn't say it was easy for you. You just what? Wanted to meet and make yourself feel better?
No.
He leaned forward. I wanted to be honest with you about why I left. I waited. Her name is Jessica. She's a consultant who worked on a project with my firm. It started 6 months ago. I didn't plan it. It just happened. The same excuse every cheater used. Like infidelity was weather. Like he'd accidentally slipped and fallen into someone else's bed. I didn't want to hurt you, he continued. That's why I didn't tell you sooner. I kept hoping it would end, that I'd come to my senses, but you didn't.
No.
I fell in love with her. The words landed like stones. I'd suspected. I'd known really since the moment he hesitated. But hearing it out loud was different. So that's it, I said quietly. 9 years of marriage, a child, a life. And you fell in love with someone else. I'm sorry, you said that already. What do you want me to say? I looked at him, really looked, and saw a stranger wearing my husband's face. I want you to say that you'll be fair in the divorce. That you won't fight me on everything. That you'll put Lily first. He nodded quickly. Too quickly. Of course. I'd never. Because I'm not going to be easy to fight. Something in my voice made him pause. What does that mean? I thought about the money. About the trust. About Marcus's warning. It means I have a good lawyer. And I'm not the same woman you married. He studied me for a long moment. You seem different. I am harder. Smarter. He didn't argue. We talked for another 30 minutes. Logistics mostly. The house. Custody schedules. Who got the wedding china? No one. Apparently, we both hated it. He was agreeable, almost eager to please. Guilt, I guessed. Or relief that I wasn't screaming at him. When we stood to leave, he hesitated. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you seeing anyone? I almost laughed. No, David. I'm not seeing anyone. I'm too busy holding our daughter while she cries herself to sleep. He winced. That's not fair. You want fair? Fair would have been honesty 6 months ago. Fair would have been fighting for us instead of finding someone else. Fair would be you walking away with nothing. His eyes narrowed slightly. What do you mean, nothing? I caught myself. Too close. Too much. I mean nothing but your guilt, I said smoothly. That's all you deserve. I walked out before he could respond. In the car, I sat with my hands on the wheel, breathing hard. That was close. Too close. I'd almost let it slip. But I hadn't. And now I knew something I hadn't known before. He was in love with her. Not just in lust, not just in affair mode. In love. Which meant he wasn't coming back. Which meant I was free. I started the car and drove home. The numbers $18.7 million running through my head like a song I couldn't stop humming. That night, after Lily was asleep, I did something I hadn't done in years. I pulled out my old journal. The one from before marriage, before David, before I became someone's wife. I flipped through pages filled with dreams I'd forgotten. Travel plans. Career goals. A list of 30 things to do before 30 that I never completed. I found a blank page and started writing. Not a list this time. A plan. By midnight, I had pages of notes. Ideas. Possibilities. A life that looked nothing like the one I'd been living. I closed the journal and looked around the bedroom. David's side was empty now, really empty. I'd finally packed up the rest of his things and put them in the garage. The room felt bigger.
So did I.
The next morning, I woke up before my alarm, made coffee, packed Lily's lunch, dropped her at school. Normal things. But underneath the normal, something was shifting. I was no longer the woman whose husband left her. I was the woman who was about to show everyone what she was made of, including him, especially him. The next 6 weeks were the strangest of my life. On the surface, nothing changed. I still went to work at my marketing job every day, still made Lily's lunches and helped with homework and attended parent-teacher conferences. Still smiled at neighbors and waved at the mailman and pretended everything was normal. But underneath, I was building something new. Marcus Chun and I met every 2 weeks. The trust was finalized. The money was invested, conservatively, at my request. I didn't want lumbos or mansions. I wanted security, freedom, options. I'd like you to meet someone, Marcus said during our 4th meeting. Her name is Dr. Andrea Wells. She's a financial therapist. A financial what? Therapist. Money changes things, changes people. It's good to have support from someone who understands both the psychological and practical sides. I was skeptical but agreed. Dr. Wells turned out to be a revelation, a sharp, warm woman in her 50s who'd seen every possible money disaster play out. You're in a unique position, she told me during our first session. Most people who come into sudden wealth are married when it happens. The spouse is right there, wanting things, needing things, changing. You're alone. That's a gift. A gift. Think about it. You get to decide who you want to become without anyone else's input. No husband pushing for a boat. No in-laws with their hands out. Just you and your daughter, figuring out your next chapter. I hadn't thought of it that way. What about the divorce? I asked. He's going to find out eventually.
Yes.
And when he does, you want to be solid, grounded, clear on what's yours and why. I left her office feeling lighter, stronger, like I was building a foundation instead of just reacting. Meanwhile, David and I settled into a rhythm of co-parenting that was civil but cold. Wednesday nights and every other weekend, drop-offs at the park near my house so we didn't have to see each other's homes. Texts about school schedules and doctor appointments and nothing else. Lily was adjusting slowly. She talked about Daddy less, asked more questions about why he left. I answered honestly but gently. Sometimes grown-ups grow apart, and held her when she cried, which was still often. One Sunday evening, after David dropped her off, she came inside with a strange expression. Mommy? Yeah, baby? Daddy's friend was there. My stomach tightened. What friend? Jessica. She made pancakes. They have a bird. A bird. I kept my face neutral. That sounds nice. She's pretty. She let me play with her earrings. I nodded, smiled, made popcorn and put on a movie. But inside, something was burning. Not jealousy. I was past that. It was something else. Something protective. This woman was now in my daughter's life, and I hadn't even known her name until 3 weeks ago. That night, I did something I'd been avoiding. I Googled her. Jessica Marie Thornton, 29 years old, graduated from University of Michigan, worked as a management consultant at a firm downtown. Her Instagram was public. Of course it was, and I scrolled through a year of her life in 20 minutes. Vacations with friends, brunch photos, a picture of a sunrise that she'd captioned, worth getting up for. And then 6 months ago, a photo at a work event. A group shot with blurry faces in the background. One of them was David. I zoomed in. There he was, mid-laugh, looking at someone off camera. Looking at her, probably. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark for a long time. The next morning, I called Marcus. How do I make sure he gets nothing? He was quiet for a moment. Legally, you can't guarantee that, but we can build a strong case. The timing helps, he filed before the payout. Illinois law is murky on lottery winnings and divorce, but since the ticket was bought during the marriage, he could argue it's marital property.
Could.
Not will.
Correct.
It depends on the judge, the evidence, and how hard he fights. And if he doesn't know, he can't fight what he doesn't know.
I thought about that.
about how long I could keep this secret, about what would happen when it finally came out. Tell me more about the trust, I said. For the next hour, we mapped out a strategy. The money would stay protected. I would make no major life changes until the divorce was final. And I would tell no one, not Megan, not my parents, absolutely no one, about the full amount. One more thing, Marcus said at the end. He's going to ask for a financial disclosure eventually. Standard divorce procedure. You'll have to list assets. How long until that happens? Months. Possibly longer if we stall. Then we stall. I hung up and looked around my kitchen. The same cabinets I'd painted 3 years ago. The same scuff marks on the floor from Lily's bike. The same life, but different now. Different because of what I knew. Different because of what he didn't. February arrived with snow and cold and the kind of gray skies that made everyone irritable. Lily got the flu and missed a week of school. I worked from home, answering emails while holding a thermometer, surviving on coffee and determination. David offered to help. I said no. He offered to take her for the weekend once she was better. I said fine. He showed up on a Saturday morning, and for the first time I saw her. Jessica. She was waiting in the car. I stood at the door with Lily's bag and watched David walk to the driver's side, lean in, say something. She glanced at me through the windshield. Just for a second. Then she looked away. Lily ran to the car, and David lifted her into the back seat. He waved at me, a small, awkward wave, and got in. I watched them drive away. And I felt nothing. Not anger. Not jealousy. Not even curiosity. Just a quiet, steady certainty that I was on the right path. That night, I did something impulsive. I booked a flight to California. Not for a vacation, for research. One of the things Dr. Wells had suggested was thinking about where I wanted to live after the divorce. You're not tied to Evanston, she'd said. Your job is remote-friendly. Lily's young enough to adapt. If you've always dreamed of living somewhere else, now's the time to explore. I'd always dreamed of California.
The beach.
The light. The way the air smelled different there. I spent 3 days in San Diego, pretending to be a tourist, but really scoping out neighborhoods and schools. I walked along the beach at sunset and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. When I got back, Lily asked where I'd been. I told her visiting a friend. She accepted it easily, distracted by a new art project. David texted that night. Can we talk about summer schedule? I replied, sure. Next week. He wrote back, you seem different lately. I stared at the message. I thought. I just haven't shown you how different yet. March brought more snow and more meetings and more secrecy. I told Megan about California, and she was thrilled. You're going to move? Maybe. Eventually. After everything's final. God, I'm jealous. Start over somewhere new. Fresh start. Something like that. She looked at me carefully. You're handling this really well. Better than I would. I'm not handling it. I'm planning. Is there a difference?
I thought about it. Yeah.
Handling is surviving. Planning is building. She raised her glass. To building, then. We clinked. April came with warmer weather and a new development. David wanted to mediate. It's faster, he said when he called.
Cheaper.
Better for Lily. Better for you mean? Better for everyone. We can sit down with a neutral third party and work out the terms without fighting in court for 2 years. I thought about Marcus's advice.
Stall.
I'll think about it. Don't think too long. Jessica and we're talking about moving in together. The words landed weirdly. Not painful, just strange. Like hearing about an old acquaintance's life. That's fast. It's been almost a year since we started seeing each other.
A year.
He'd been with her for a year. A full year of lying, of sneaking, of coming home to me while building a life with someone else. Congratulations, I said flatly. That's not. I wasn't looking for. I know what you were looking for. Permission. Forgiveness. Something to make you feel less guilty. Silence. I'll think about mediation, I said. I'll let you know. I hung up and called Marcus. He wants to mediate, and he's moving in with her. Interesting. That could work in our favor.
How?
Mediation means disclosure. We'll have to show our financial hand eventually. But if he's eager to settle quickly, and moving in together suggests he wants to move on, he might agree to terms that are favorable to you just to be done. Favorable how? Full custody. The house. A chunk of his retirement. He might give up more than he should if he thinks you're not hiding anything. But I am hiding something.
Yes. And that's the risk.
If he finds out during mediation, everything changes. I thought about it for 3 days. Then I agreed to mediate. The session was scheduled for early May. A neutral location. A retired judge named Patricia Okonkwo, who'd been doing this for 20 years. I spent the weeks before preparing with Marcus. Going over numbers. Practicing responses. Learning how to say nothing while appearing to say everything. Dr. Wells helped too. Remember, she said during our last session before mediation, you're not hiding because you're deceitful. You're hiding because you're protecting yourself and your daughter from someone who already proved he can't be trusted. That sounds like justification. It's context. There's a difference. I hope she was right. The morning of mediation, I dressed carefully. Professional but not flashy. Confident but not aggressive. Marcus met me in the parking lot. Ready?
No. Good.
Honesty is useful. We walked in together. David was already there, sitting at a conference table with his lawyer. A woman named Brenda something, sharp-looking, expensive suit. He stood when I entered. Old habit. Hey, he said. David. We sat on opposite sides of the table. Judge Okonkwo introduced herself, explained the process, and reminded us that this was confidential and non-binding. We're here to find common ground, she said. Not to fight. Everyone understand. We nodded. Let's start with assets. Brenda went first, laying out David's proposal. He wanted to keep his retirement intact. Wanted to sell the house and split proceeds. Wanted joint custody with a 50-50 schedule. I listened without reacting. Then it was Marcus's turn. He laid out our counter. I keep the house. Full physical custody with David having every other weekend and one night during the week. His retirement split 60-40 in my favor. No sale of assets. David's eyes widened. That's ridiculous, Brenda said. Those are our terms, Marcus replied calmly.
Judge Okonkwo looked at me.
Can you afford the house on your own? Yes. With your current salary? Yes. David shifted in his seat. She can't afford that house. We could barely afford it together. I can now. Something flickered across his face. Confusion. Suspicion. Have you gotten a raise I don't know about? I met his eyes. I've made some changes. Brenda jumped in. We need full financial disclosure before we can agree to any of this. Of course, Marcus said smoothly. We'll provide everything. In due time. David was still staring at me. What changes? He asked. I didn't answer. Judge Okonkwo cleared her throat. Perhaps we should take a break. Give everyone time to consider. We broke for lunch. Marcus and I ate sandwiches in a small park nearby. He's suspicious, Marcus said. I know. That's dangerous. If he pushes for disclosure now, then we disclose. And everything changes. Marcus nodded slowly. You ready for that? I thought about the money, about California, about the life I was building in secret. No, I admitted, but I don't have a choice. We walked back inside. David was waiting by the door. He caught my arm as I passed. Can I talk to you? Alone. Marcus tensed. I shook my head slightly. 5 minutes, I said. We stepped into a small empty office down the hall. What is it? I asked. He looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Something's off. You're different. The way you talk, the way you look at me, like you know something I don't. I know a lot of things you don't. Like what? I almost told him. Almost let the words spill out. The money, the trust, California, all of it. But I didn't. Like the fact that you moved on before you left me. Like the fact that you let me believe we were fine while you were building a life with someone else. Like the fact that you still don't really see me.
He blinked.
That's not. It is. And I'm done explaining myself to you. I walked back to the conference room. The afternoon session was tense. Brenda pushed for disclosure. Marcus pushed back. Judge Okonkwo suggested we adjourn and reconvene in a month. Give everyone time to gather documentation, she said. David agreed. Brenda looked frustrated but nodded. I said nothing. As we packed up, David caught my eye one last time. I'm going to figure out what you're hiding, he said quietly. I met his gaze steadily. Good luck with that. I walked out into the May sunshine, my heart pounding, my future still mine.
For now.
The month between mediation sessions was the longest of my life. Every day, I waited for the other shoe to drop. For David to figure it out. For a process server to show up with some new legal demand. For the secret I was carrying to explode in my face. But nothing happened. May turned into June. Lily finished second grade with a certificate for Most Creative Storyteller and a summer full of camps and playdates. I worked my marketing job during the day and spent my nights researching California schools and neighborhoods. San Diego kept pulling at me.
The beach.
The weather. The way the light hit the water in the evenings. I'd found a small house online, a rental, not a purchase, because Marcus had strictly forbidden any big assets until the divorce was final, that was walking distance from the ocean and had a backyard with lemon trees. I looked at the photos so many times, I had them memorized. Dr. Wells encouraged the planning. Visualizing your future is healthy, she said during our June session. It gives you something to move toward instead of just running from. I feel like I'm living a double life, I admitted. You are. But that's temporary. Soon, you'll only have one life, the one you choose. I wanted to believe her. The second mediation was scheduled for June 15th. I spent the night before lying awake, running through every possible scenario. What if he'd hired a private investigator? What if he'd somehow found out about the trust? What if I walked in, and he was already smirking, already knowing? But when I walked into the conference room the next morning, his face was the same as before.
Tired.
Frustrated.
Confused.
No smirk. Brenda, however, looked like she'd come ready for war. We need full financial disclosure, she said before we even sat down. We've been patient, but patience has limits. Marcus remained calm. We're happy to provide everything. As I'm sure you understand, these things take time. 3 months is not time. It's delay. Judge Okonkwo raised a hand. Let's focus on what we can agree on today. Custody? The house? Let's find common ground before we dive into the numbers. The next 3 hours were exhausting. We argued over everything. Holiday schedules, who claimed Lily on taxes, the division of furniture. David wanted the dining table we'd bought together. I told him he could have it. I didn't care about furniture anymore. By lunch, we'd made some progress. Custody schedule mostly settled. The house, he'd agreed I could stay, with him getting a portion of the equity when it eventually sold. But the money question kept circling back. We can't finalize anything without full financials, Brenda repeated. It's non-negotiable. Marcus glanced at me. I gave a tiny nod.
Fine, he said.
We'll provide everything by the end of the month. David's eyes narrowed. Why the delay? What are you hiding? Hiding is a strong word, Marcus said smoothly. My client has had a lot to manage. A divorce, a child, a full-time job. Gathering documentation takes time. Brenda wasn't buying it. We'll expect complete transparency. Bank accounts, investments, retirement funds, any other assets. And you'll get it. We adjourned with a new date, July 20th. As we left, David caught up to me in the parking lot.
Ava.
Wait. I turned. What is it? He looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Part suspicion, part something else, longing maybe? Regret? I don't know what's going on with you, he said quietly. But you're different. Harder. It's like I don't recognize you anymore. Maybe you never did. That's not fair. You want fair? I stepped closer. Fair would be you telling me the truth a year ago instead of lying to my face every single day. Fair would be you fighting for our marriage instead of finding someone younger and easier. Fair would be you walking away with nothing and being grateful I'm not burning your life to the ground. He recoiled slightly. Jesus, Ava. Jesus had nothing to do with it. I got in my car and drove away. That night, I called Megan. I can't do this much longer. Can't do what?
Lie. Hide. Pretend.
Every time I see him, I want to scream the truth. I want to watch his face when he realizes what he threw away. Then why don't you? Because Marcus says it'll ruin my case. Because if he knows about the money before the divorce is final, he'll fight for half. Because I'm tired of men taking things from me. Megan was quiet for a moment. You know I love you, right? I know. And I'm proud of you. Whatever you decide, I'm proud. I hung up and stared at the ceiling until 3 a.m. July 20th arrived with Chicago humidity, so thick you could swim through it. I dressed carefully, light colors, professional but not trying too hard. Marcus met me in the lobby with a folder. We're disclosing today, he said quietly. Everything. The trust, the amount, the timing. Are you ready?
No.
That's normal. Just remember, you haven't done anything wrong. You protected yourself. That's all.
We walked in.
David and Brenda were already there. Judge Okonkwo looked ready to mediate. Let's begin, she said. Marcus opened the folder. We're prepared to provide full financial disclosure today. Brenda sat forward. Finally. There's something you should know, Marcus continued. My client recently came into some money. David's head snapped up. What money? In January, 3 weeks before your client filed for divorce, my client won the Illinois state lottery. The after-tax amount is approximately $11.2 million. The silence was absolute. I watched David's face go through about 17 emotions in 5 seconds. Confusion, disbelief,
Shock.
and then, slowly, something darker. You won the lottery? His voice was barely a whisper. Yes. And you didn't tell me? You filed for divorce. You moved out. You had a girlfriend. When exactly was I supposed to share my good news? Brenda jumped in. This changes everything. The winnings happened during the marriage. That's marital property. The ticket was purchased during the marriage, Marcus agreed. But the payout occurred after your client filed. Illinois law is not clear-cut on this. It's absolutely clear-cut. The marriage existed when she bought the ticket. He's entitled to a share. Judge Okonkwo raised a hand. Everyone calm down. This is why we're here, to mediate, not litigate. But David wasn't calm. He was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. $11 million, he said slowly. You've had $11 million since January. And you let me struggle with rent. You let me worry about child support. You let yourself, I interrupted. You made your choices. I just stopped cleaning up after them. This is insane. He stood up. I need a minute. He walked out. Brenda followed. Judge Okonkwo looked at me. That went about as well as could be expected. I almost laughed. 20 minutes later, they came back. David's face was red. Brenda looked grim. We need to reschedule, she said. This changes the entire negotiation. Judge Okonkwo nodded. I agree. Let's reconvene in 3 weeks. By then, everyone can adjust their expectations. 3 weeks. More waiting. As we packed up, David walked over to me. His voice was low, controlled, dangerous. You planned this. I planned to protect myself. $11 million. You sat across from me at that coffee shop and let me talk about splitting the equity in a house we both paid for, and you already had $11 million. Yep. You're a monster. I looked at him calmly. I'm a monster? I'm not the one who cheated. I'm not the one who lied for a year. I'm not the one who left his wife and child for someone younger and then expected everything to be fair and easy. He opened his mouth.
Closed it.
Here's what's going to happen. I continued quietly. You're going to go home to Jessica. You're going to tell her about the money. And you're going to realize that if you'd been faithful, if you'd been a decent husband and father, you'd be sharing in this right now. You threw away $11 million when you threw away me. I walked out, didn't look back. The next 3 weeks were chaos. David's lawyer filed motions. Marcus filed responses. There were phone calls and emails and threats of depositions. The Lottery Commission got involved. The trust documents were scrutinized. Through it all, I kept living my normal life.
Work.
Lily. Summer nights, making s'mores in the backyard. Conversations about nothing with neighbors who had no idea I was worth millions. Dr. Wells doubled our sessions. "How are you handling the stress?" she asked. "Some days better than others." The urge to give in, to settle just to make it stop? Every day. That's normal. But remember, you've already survived the worst part. The discovery, the betrayal, the loneliness. This is just logistics. Logistics. Such a small word for something so huge. In early August, we finally sat down again. This time, the energy was different. David looked exhausted. Brenda looked resigned. Judge Okonkwo looked ready to force a resolution. "Let's try this again," she said. Brenda went first. "My client is entitled to a significant portion of the lottery winnings. We're prepared to argue that in court if necessary." Marcus responded calmly. "Your client walked out on his wife and child. He was having an affair when the ticket was purchased. He filed for divorce 3 weeks before the payout. A judge will consider all of that. The law doesn't care about morality. It cares about marital property. And Illinois law gives judges discretion, especially when one spouse abandoned the marriage." They went back and forth for hours. Finally, Judge Okonkwo proposed a number.
20%, she said.
Plus the equity from the house. Plus his retirement kept intact. "That's my recommendation." David's eyes widened. 20% of 11 million is
2.2 million, Brenda finished. He looked at me.
I looked at Marcus. "It's reasonable," Marcus said quietly. "Given the circumstances, a judge could give him more, or less. But this ends it. Today." I thought about California, about the Lemon Tree House, about never having to see David across a conference table again.
"Fine," I said.
David looked stunned. "Just fine. I want to be done. I want to move on. I want to stop living in this weird in-between where you're still part of my life in the worst way." He nodded slowly. "Okay. We'll need to draft agreements," Brenda said. "Formalize everything. But if both parties agree in principle." "We agree," I said. David hesitated. "Then, I agree." Judge Okonkwo smiled for the first time all day. "Excellent. Let's get to work." The paperwork took another month. August bled into September. Lily started 3rd grade. The leaves began to change. I signed documents and initialed pages and watched my $11 million become 8.8. But I didn't feel like I'd lost anything. I felt like I'd bought something. Freedom. The day the divorce was finalized, I picked Lily up from school and took her to her favorite ice cream place. "Why are we celebrating?" she asked, chocolate smeared on her cheek. "Because Mommy has some news. We're going to make a change. A big one." Her eyes went wide. "Are we getting a puppy?" I laughed. "Not a puppy. A new home. In California, near the beach." She stared at me for a long moment. "Really? Really?" She launched herself at me so hard we almost fell off the bench. Best 50 cents I ever spent. That night, I called Megan. "It's done. Done. Signed, sealed, delivered. I'm officially divorced and officially moving to California." She screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "I'm coming to visit constantly," she said. "Like, annoyingly often." "Good. And he got 20%? That's it. 2.2 million. For walking out on us. For cheating. For lying. That's insane. That's the law. But it's also freedom. He'll never have to wonder what he lost. He'll know exactly what it cost him." Megan was quiet for a moment. "You're amazing, you know that?" "I'm learning." The movers came in October. I sold most of the furniture, didn't want the memories. Packed only what mattered. Lily's art projects. Photo albums. The good pots and pans. The night before we left, I walked through the empty house one last time. The kitchen where I'd made 1,000 dinners. The living room where Lily took her first steps. The bedroom where I'd cried myself to sleep for weeks after David left.
I didn't feel sad.
I felt ready. In the morning, we loaded into the car and started driving.
West. Toward the ocean.
Toward lemon trees and new schools, and a life that looked nothing like the one I'd planned. Lily fell asleep somewhere in Iowa. I drove in silence, watching the flatlands turn into hills, the hills into mountains. Somewhere in Nebraska, my phone buzzed. A text from David. I still can't believe you didn't tell me. I looked at it for a long time. Then I typed back. I know. I put the phone in the glove compartment and didn't look at it again until we reached California. End of thinking, hashtag part 5. The Pacific Ocean looked exactly like I'd imagined it. Bluer, whiter, more alive than Lake Michigan had ever been. We pulled into our rental house on a Tuesday afternoon, and Lily ran straight through the backyard to the beach access path before I could even unlock the door.
Mom.
There's sand. I laughed, actually laughed, the kind that comes from somewhere deep, and followed her. The house was smaller than our Evanston place. Older too, but it had character. Hardwood floors that creaked in comforting ways. A porch swing that faced the water. And those lemon trees I'd been staring at online for months, heavy with fruit. Lily spent the first hour collecting shells. I spent it sitting on the sand, not thinking about anything, just breathing. The first week was a blur of unpacking and school registration and figuring out which grocery store had the good bread. Lily started 3rd grade at a school 2 blocks from the beach. I enrolled her in an after-school art program and watched her come home covered in paint and joy. I started working remotely full-time. My marketing job let me keep my position remotely, which was a relief. I wasn't ready to give up that normalcy yet. The money was there, waiting, but I wanted to ease into a new life, not crash into it. Dr. Wells and I switched to video sessions. You're doing well, she said during our first California call. Better than I expected, honestly. Does that surprise you? Pleasantly. Sometimes people freeze after big changes. You're moving forward. I don't know how not to. There's Lily. There's this new life. There's no time to freeze. That's healthy. But make time to feel things too. The grief doesn't disappear just because you're in a beautiful place. She was right, of course. The grief was still there. Smaller now, quieter, but present. It showed up at odd moments. When Lily said something that reminded me of David. When I saw a couple holding hands on the beach. When I couldn't sleep at 3 a.m. and the silence felt too loud. But it didn't control me anymore. November brought cooler weather and our first visitors. Megan flew out for Thanksgiving. She stepped off the plane, looked around, and announced, "I'm never leaving." You have to. You have a job. I'll quit. You love your job. I'll love California more. We spent the week eating too much, walking on the beach, and staying up late drinking wine on the porch swing. Megan watched Lily like a hawk, marveling at how much she'd grown in just a few months. She seems happy, Megan said one night.
She is.
She talks about David sometimes, but it's different now. Less painful. And you? I thought about it. I'm getting there. Getting where? To the place where I don't think about him every day. Where the story of us is just a story, not something that still hurts. Megan squeezed my hand. You'll get there. You're the strongest person I know. I didn't feel strong, but I felt like I was becoming someone new.
And that was enough.
December arrived with Christmas lights and holiday music and Lily's endless questions about whether Santa could find us in California. He found us in Illinois, I assured her. He'll find us here. On Christmas Eve, we decorated a small tree with shells we'd collected on the beach. Lily hung her creations, lopsided ornaments from art class, on the lower branches. I made hot chocolate and put on old movies and tried not to think about previous Christmases. Different ones. Ones with David. Around 10 p.m., after Lily was asleep, I sat on the porch swing with my phone. There was a text from David. Merry Christmas Eve. Hope you and Lily are doing well. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back. We are. Merry Christmas.
Short.
Polite. Final. He didn't respond. I put the phone down and looked at the ocean. Dark now, but I could hear it. Constant. Reliable. Nothing like the man I used to love. January brought a new year and a new idea. I wanted to do something with the money. Something meaningful. Something that wasn't just about me. Dr. Wells encouraged it. You've been sitting with this wealth for a year.
Protecting it.
Hiding it. Now you can start using it. What matters to you? What mattered? Lily, obviously. Her future. Her education. Her happiness. But also other things. Women going through what I went through. Single mothers. People rebuilding after betrayal. I started small. A donation to a local shelter. Anonymous. Just enough to help. Then bigger. A scholarship fund for single moms going back to school. Named after my grandmother, who'd raised 3 kids alone after my grandfather died. Then something unexpected happened. I got a letter. From Jessica. I almost didn't open it. The return address was Chicago, and for a second I thought it might be from David. But the handwriting was different.
Looped.
Feminine. I opened it in the kitchen, standing by the sink, lemon tree visible through the window. Dear Ava. I don't know if you'll read this. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. But I need to say some things, and I don't know how else to say them.
I'm sorry.
I know that probably doesn't mean much. I know I was part of something that hurt you deeply, and I live with that every day. When David and I started seeing each other, he told me you were separated. I believed him because I wanted to. That's on me. I was 28 and lonely, and he was charming, and I didn't ask enough questions. By the time I found out the truth, I was already in too deep. Or, at least I told myself I was. The truth is, I was scared to walk away. Scared to be alone again. Scared to admit I'd made a mistake. I'm writing now because things have changed. David and I are over. Have been for 2 months. I won't bore you with the details, but the short version is, the money changed him. Or maybe it just revealed who he always was. He became obsessed with what he'd lost.
With you.
With the life he threw away. He talked about you constantly, not with anger, but with this weird, longing regret that made me realize I was just a placeholder. I couldn't compete with a ghost. Especially not a ghost who is worth $11 million. I'm not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me. I'm telling you because I think you deserve to know that he never really moved on. Not from you. Not from what he did. I'm also telling you because I want to apologize. Not for him, he can do that himself. But for my part, for not asking questions. For being weak. For contributing to your pain. I hope you're happy in California. Lily too. You deserved better than both of us. Jessica. I read the letter 3 times. Then I set it down and looked at the ocean. Part of me wanted to feel satisfaction. Vindication. He was miserable. He regretted it. He lost everything. But I didn't feel those things. I just felt tired. Tired of him taking up space in my head. Tired of his name being part of my story. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. I never responded. February was quiet. Lily had a birthday party at the beach. I met some other moms through her school. Started having coffee with a few of them. Nothing deep yet, just the slow work of building community. I also started writing.
Not a journal this time.
Something else. Stories about my experience. About betrayal and rebuilding and the strange freedom of losing everything you thought you wanted. I didn't show anyone.
Not yet.
But it felt good to put words to it. One night, I got an email from a small publication I had submitted something to anonymously. They wanted to publish it. I stared at the screen for an hour. Then I said yes. March came in with rain and wildflowers. The piece was published. Just a short essay about starting over. About choosing yourself. About the moment you realize you're going to be okay. I didn't use my real name. But people found it anyway. Comments started appearing. Women sharing their own stories. Thanking me. Telling me I'd helped them. I sat at my kitchen table. Reading them, crying. Not sad tears. Something else. Connection, maybe. Purpose. That night, I called Dr. Wells. I think I know what I want to do. What's that? Help women. Not with money, Well, maybe some with money, but with stories, with sharing, with knowing they're not alone. She was quiet for a moment. Then, that's beautiful. That's exactly the kind of thing people need. I started planning a website, a foundation, a way to connect women going through what I went through. It felt huge. It felt right. April brought a surprise. David called. Not text call. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Ava. David. A pause. Then, I heard you're doing well. Lily too. I am. She is. Good. That's good. Another pause. Why are you calling? I asked. He exhaled slowly. I don't know exactly.
To say I'm sorry, maybe. Really sorry.
Not the way I said it before. You've said sorry before.
I know.
But I don't think I meant it then. I was sorry I got caught. Sorry my life got complicated. But I don't think I was sorry for what I did to you. I waited. I read your essay, he said quietly. The one in that magazine. I know it was you, even without your name. My heart stopped. I didn't recognize you in it, he continued. Not at first. The woman in that essay was so strong, so clear,
So different from the woman I married.
and then I realized she's not different. She was always there. I just never saw her. I didn't speak. I'm not asking for anything, he said. I know there's nothing to ask for. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. Too late, but I see it. David. You don't have to say anything. I just needed to say it. For me, I guess. For my own, I don't know. Closure. Silence stretched between us. Goodbye, Ava. Goodbye, David. He hung up. I sat with the phone in my hand for a long time. Then I went outside and looked at the ocean. The waves kept coming. Steady.
Unchanged. So was I.
But different too. Stronger. May brought Lily's last day of school and the start of summer. We spent it on the beach, in the water, building sandcastles and eating ice cream and living a life I couldn't have imagined 2 years ago. The foundation launched in June. Small at first, just a website and some connections. But it grew. Women found it, shared their stories, found each other. I read every single message. Some nights, I cried reading them. Other nights, I laughed at the absurdity of it all. How pain could connect people, how survival could become purpose. One evening in July, I sat on the porch swing with a glass of wine, watching the sun set over the water. Lily was inside, FaceTiming with Megan. I could hear her laughing. My phone buzzed. A notification from the foundation website. Thank you. I found out my husband was cheating yesterday. I didn't think I'd survive the night. But I read your story and I realized I could. I will. I stared at the screen. Then I typed back. You will. One day at a time. And when you're ready, you'll build something new. Something beautiful. I promise. I set the phone down and looked at the ocean. The waves kept coming.
So would I.